Meeting is started. So Art, you can just call off each agenda item when you're ready to talk about it.
Okay, the agenda items for today are 1, to approve minutes of prior meetings, 2, to update the board of any appellate tax board cases, other negotiations and settlements, 3, review of vote on abatements and exemptions applications, number 4, overlay surplus, number 5, general update and scheduling, 6, topics not reasonably anticipated within 48 hours and prior to the meeting, and number 7, adjourn.
So, Mr. Chair, I believe Chip Davis forwarded the minutes of the last 2 meetings to all the committee members. Unless there are any corrections or changes, I think that a motion to accept them is appropriate, and that Walter, since it's only you and Art, the chair, you would have to be the mover of the motions.
Okay.
Walter?
Yeah, okay. I make a motion to move the agenda item.
To approve the minutes of the prior meetings.
Well, okay, I make a motion to approve the minutes of the prior meeting, sorry.
And you would second it?
I second.
And then you would call for a vote. You would call upon Walter, then yourself.
Okay, then I call for a vote.
I call for a vote.
Yeah. Yeah.
We all call for a vote.
So, yay or nay, Walter?
Yay.
Mr. Chair?
Yay.
Mr. Chair, an update on appellate tax board cases or other negotiations or settlements. M, did you have anything to share with them?
Well, I can tell you that right now we have 7 pending ATB cases, and it looks like 6 of them are commercial, 1 is residential, and I just briefly looked them over in preparation for the discussion we're going to have on overlay. But you know, we'll need to get in touch, and I'll need to talk with Chip as well about what discussions have been had, and then get in touch with them and see where we're going with them. So, but they've been continued out, I think.
They're continued to October 12th.
Yeah, so they're continued out well, far enough away that we can spend some time talking with them. And 2 of them, I'm sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4 of them are represented by 2 different attorneys, and there are 3 others by a 3rd attorney. So we can see where the attorneys stand, and if we're, if we're anywhere close and we can work on it, great. If not, then we'll have to do some discovery and have them provide us with leases and income statements or whatever they haven't given us yet. So, so that's where we're at with those right now.
Is 6 or 7 typical of what you see? Because I don't remember that right.
ATB cases?
Yeah.
Yeah, we've usually got anywhere between 5 and 10.
Oh, okay.
Because these things go, what we do is we deny the abatement application, or we make some approval.
Yeah.
And if they don't like it,
right,
they can still go file the appellate tax.
Right.
And the filings came in. Some of these are a couple of years old.
Sure. Okay. Just ongoing.
And they were supposed to be originally heard in March, and at that time I didn't think I was going to be here till March, so I moved them to July.
Okay.
And then knowing that it was going to be starting and was scheduled to actually be at the appellate tax court today, I think, or yesterday, I figured it would probably be prudent to move it to October. But it's the only one of any real consequence is the assisted living on Gould Street. We've got Wingate out front. It's on Highland Avenue.
Yes.
At the corner of Gould. And then behind Wingate,
the new building,
that huge new building, both of those have filed. And
is the Sheridan a done deal?
Sheridan.
The hotel?
No, I don't know whether he was going to file or not.
Okay.
He called close to the last day for filing.
All right.
And wanted some information, so that may come up.
Okay.
But as of this point, he has not filed.
All right.
Review of abatements and exemptions. I assume there are none.
No.
Oh, okay.
So the 6 or 7 cases are more or less out of our hands at the appellate tax board.
Right. We'll,
They just tell us what's going on.
We'll deal with it. No, we have to go to the appellate tax board for a hearing.
Oh, okay, okay.
And over the years I've done it, 50 times probably.
All right.
And each side goes in. The appellant makes their case to the commissioner. There's a commissioner, and then I will make the town's case. In this case, we am doing it.
Yeah.
And the commissioner, if it's over $1 million in value, all the commissioners have to review it. If it's under $1 million, a single commissioner can make the decision.
Okay.
And pardon me?
Walter, did you have a?
No, I didn't say anything. Sorry.
Oh, okay. And then the commissioners will render a decision.
Okay.
And we have to abide by that decision. Right. And, the only thing that changes is the first time around, it's the appellant, the one who's making the appeal. It's their job to prove that we're wrong.
So they're giving their side of the story.
Right.
We're giving our side of the story. And then all the commissioners will make their own decision.
Make a decision.
Yes.
And the first time around, it's the appellant's job to show that we're wrong.
Yes.
Okay, if the commissioners reduce the value from $1 million to $1 million or to 500,000, if they file again, then it becomes, and we don't take that $500,000 value the following year. And it becomes our burden to prove why it's worth more than the 500,000 they reduced it to.
Okay.
And we haven't run into one of those ever. So.
All right.
Yeah, and just to add to that, there is a period of time, well, up until the commissioners make a decision, or I should probably say up until the case is closed. If we're in a hearing, then we can negotiate and agree on some number. So generally, what I'm sure Chip's theory is the same. If there's a valid reason for them to have appealed, and they can show us that is a valid reason, then there's no reason to go to a hearing. If we need to make an adjustment for some reason, we can make it. We don't have to do the hearing. And then,
wouldn't that happen? Excuse me. Wouldn't that happen in the first abatement?
It could. We had back and forth with that, and we've settled a lot of them where I have given them a number, they've taken it, and you guys have abated it. But if we can't come to an agreement, that's when it goes to the appellate.
Right. Okay.
And I think in all these cases, we denied the abatement application, and then they had 90 days to file the appellate tax bill.
Yes.
That period is now over for fiscal year 22.
Yes.
That's why you're asking about the Sheridan guy. He may or may not have made it in time.
Okay.
All of these are earlier than 2022.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay, so, and one of the reasons you settle too is some of these commercial cases, to actually try them can be extremely expensive.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking appraisals, for big bucks. For us too. Because if they have an appraisal, we're likely going to have to get an appraiser to give a comparable appraisal or our side of the story. And you're talking $10,000 in some cases, you're talking $100,000 depending on the kind of property it is. So that comes into play in the negotiations. Because the filer doesn't want to spend $50,000 on legal fees and appraisals and everything else if they know they're only going to get $60,000 back.
Right.
So, anyway, that's the Reader's Digest version of that.
Down to number 4, the town manager's made a request to the board to release $3 million from overlay. And again, as a reminder to the board, the purpose of the overlay is your reservation to cover exemptions, uncollected taxes, and taxes that may be abated by the either by yourselves or by the ATB. And what I do here is give you an analysis of what I think basically the maximum exposure that town would have if everything went wrong. which for a community such as Needham with AAA rating and stuff, these would be reserves that the rating agencies anticipate the town to have. And as of June 30th, 2022, uncollected taxes of 2021 and prior, these are real estate taxes, is $6,972. The next, which is the biggest number, taxes that are uncollected but have been secured by registering a lien, recording a lien at the Registry of Deeds or the Land Court, depending upon what type of property it is, or the taxpayers entered into a tax deferral with the board. That totals $1,929,000. Outstanding personal property tax, 2021 and prior, as of June 30th, $827,000. The next item, which you were just discussing, the ATV cases and other liabilities. After my conversations with M and looking at the cases, at most, I think the exposure is 10% of the original tax. In the case of, and so to the point that Chip was making, these are attorneys that just submit applications for the sake of submitting them. They may not even been at the bequest of the property owner. And they didn't even state what the value was of the properties. I'm still surprised the ATP hears that, because you would think that there's something to dispute other than saying, well, my assessment's too high. Well, what do you think it is? But because of most of those applications are like that, I think the chance of losing are low. And if the ATP were to give some sort of relief to the taxpayer, I couldn't imagine it being more than 10%. It would be probably less than 10%. And then lastly, of course, cases that are settled with the ATB, if the ATB does settle and it's an adverse opinion, there's a statutory interest requirement, and that's the contingency we have for that. That not only do you have to abate the taxes that they ordered to be abated, and if they were paid, then there's a statutory interest that has to be paid on that. So that totals a total of $3,038,000. The overlay balance as of June 30th was $5.9 million, and the request from the town manager is $3 million. If the board were to approve the release of $3 million, that would bring the balance in the overlay to $2,900,000, which I think is adequate. The overlay will be replenished when the tax rate is set in FY23, which will be in December.
Okay. So would I make a move to approve it?
Yes. Again, it would be appropriate for Walter as the member to make the motion to approve the $3 million overlay request. Is that to say, Walter? Walter, you're muted.
Walter, you're muted.
Here I am. I make a motion to approve the overlay request.
And you would second that?
I second the approval.
And then you'd take ask for a vote of the members.
Do we all in favor?
Aye.
I second.
And
I gotta learn this term. Languages.
Yeah.
I'm not used to it.
Robert's rules.
Robert's rules. And
that's what it is?
Yeah. And the motion is approved. Unanimous 2-0.
I have a quick question. The first $6,000, how come those are not, there's no, like, underneath it, those are liens. Above it, those aren't liens yet. It's just too early.
It's usually the reason why is that the property could be in bankruptcy, and bankruptcy stalls any actions of the town. It doesn't weaken our lien, but we're not allowed to take actions to collect until the court says
Gotcha.
That's usually the case. The other situation is if it's a tax bill to taxpayers unknown, it's a little more complicated for the tax collector to do a tax take, what's called a tax taking, which is all that means is recording the taxes as a permanent lien.
Gotcha.
Those are generally the two reasons, and given how small that is, I suspect that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Have you discussed with Christie at all getting rid of some of these lands below value? I mean, Dave Tobin didn't want to deal with it. Because I'm suspecting that's what some of these are. These are little pieces of property that were left over from a development that was being built. The contractor is long dead. He owns the property and the bills keep accruing at $37 a year. Because this piece is just sitting there, we have to bill it, but there's nobody out there to pay it.
What I suspect will happen is our treasurer collector will be retiring September 1st, and and the new treasurer, hopefully it won't take as long to hire a treasurer as it did to hire a director of assessing. But one of the first tasks that would be assigned to the new treasurer collector is to actually work with legal counsel to start moving foreclosure on those parcels that Chip just mentioned. They're just low value property owners. They're either deceased or they have no interest in keeping the property. And there's the process through land court to foreclose and basically take title to the properties.
Gotcha.
Now that process is still I can't even imagine after COVID how long the backlog is, but pre-COVID times that was at best a 2 to 3 year process.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
I think they have streamlined it at the DORs to get rid of some of this stuff.
So unfortunately, I don't think even a postage stamp will meet the DOR's land of low value, $5,000 or less in Needham. General updates and scheduling. First, I want to let the board know that I had talked with them, and I've asked Chip if first to basically do a brain dump, which Em mentioned that Chip has done with working with them. This week, he was here Tuesday and Thursday, and the same thing next week, but also to introduce the camera system that the town of Needham uses for appraising property and such. The other thing I had asked Chip if he would remain available to take calls and give background, particularly if there's any issues related to the ATB cases that Em would need information that might have been asked that are not readily apparent from the record. He would, Em would be able to talk with Chip about the case or any other issues, particularly history with some of our repeat flyers for abatement applications. And Chip agreed to do that through the end of the calendar year, December 31st. So we just want the board to be aware that that we've been able to do that. And I conferred with the town manager, and she is fine with that action. And that's the only update that I have. Em?
I don't have anything really. Just as I said, it's day 4 for me today, and things are going really well. The staff is wonderful. Chip's been amazingly helpful, and his organization and detail is definitely going to help me to get going. But it's at the heart of it, it's all things I know how to do. It's just a question of learning how things are here and what specifics there are here. But I've taken some calls. Had a nice call yesterday from a lady on her $2.3 million house and why it was taxed the way it was. And so I'm into it already.
Great.
Are we happy?
That's good.
It was great. She was great.
That's great to hear, by the way.
Thank you.
My friend did a little analysis, like 2000. He did like 3 years, like how many homes were sold over $2 million, and it was like a few of them a few years back. And then last year I jumped up to like 14 or something.
And this year, 14 a week.
Yeah, it's like 40.
It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. $2 million sales. And I'm really excited. It was over $500,000. Wow.
Yeah.
And now it's just unbelievable. And you know where it's going to end, I don't know. But at some point it has to. It's just like
usually a year you think, all right, it's capped off here.
Yeah,
it's just not.
But it's next year is going to be some serious sticker shock because we have to adjust to what happened last year. And then next year we got to adjust to what's happening this year, which is even more, more of an increase. But that's Needham. I mean, back in 2008 when everything crashed, Needham leveled out for a couple of years and back up again.
Mr. Chair, the only other thing is scheduling for the next meeting. I would presume the earliest a meeting would be necessary would be late September, early October, and I suspect there would only be if there's something related to the ATP cases, and would of course let you know what's necessary if you need to meet. Other than that, the next meeting would, if it's not related to the ATP cases, would be just prior to your annual meeting with the elect board for the tax classification. Mm-hmm. And the tax classification is tentatively scheduled. We have just getting it on your calendars. Is tentatively scheduled for Tuesday, December 6th.
What's it called again? The
tax classification hearing. That's where the board basically is your annual meeting with the select board, and you can give an overview of what's happening with property valuation in the town.
Okay, sorry.
It's usually the first hearing. Currently, the board is meeting at 6 p.m. I believe they'll still be at 6 p.m.
We did that last year.
I remember, yeah.
Yep. So the same thing. And it's statutorily required that the board has to have this hearing to determine whether taxes will be shifted from and how much of the burden will be paid by the commercial, industrial, personal property sector compared to the residential. And again, as a reminder, Needham has been a full shift since the late 80s, early 90s, a full shift, and they've been shifting taxes since the late 80s.
Gotcha.
And so, Mr. Chair and other members of the board, unless the Chair has something unanticipated to bring up, I think a motion to adjourn is appropriate.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Chair, you can call for a vote.
I call for a vote to adjourn.
Yay.
Yay.
Very good.
Thank you very much. That was very productive.